Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham, and with my wife, Nathalie Blackham, from our studios in Jerusalem. Great to have you with us. We so much appreciate your company with a program that looks at Israel, and we look behind the news, and we have features from the Hebraic roots, the important spiritual aspects that you need to know. And Nathalie will be having things to share with us from the spiritual side. Won't you, Nathalie? You'll be sharing with us some treasures that will help you in the days that we live. Now, we are living in the days, the footsteps of Messiah, all the things in the world coming into place. And Israel is the very focus of that. Israel is first. Why? Not because of anything Israel has done, but because it's the place, it's where Jerusalem is and where everything is going to happen. So that's why our eyes need to be on this place, and that's why we need to look at what's happening in the news and how that affects biblical prophecy. Well,
by the way, when you say that, it reminds me of a verse in the Tanakh, the Old Testament, as Christians say, and it said that the eyes of God are from the beginning of the year to the end of the year on Israel. So he's looking at everything.
Now, in the news, you'll be asking what's happening with the Gaza oblique Hezbollah war. There's a ceasefire, allegedly. So we're in this process of ceasefire, although many people say the war is still continuing in some respects. Officially, there is a ceasefire in operation, and one of the big stories about the ceasefire was the release of terrorists, almost, well, not quite, but almost going into the 2,000 number, which is a huge amount of terrorists to be released and unheard of, really.
For less than 100 hostages.
Right. Which is only in the first stage of the deal, unbelievably, including murderers. So something very, very concerning for everybody, or it should be, that terrorists are being released. The High Court has rejected the bereaved families petition. That's families not of the hostages, but that's families of those who've been killed in terror attacks or seriously injured. The families have made a petition in the High Court because terrorists are being released, and now, despite all their actions in the law courts, 90 terrorists have already been released as we've come into the studio, who were welcomed back, by the way, to Ramallah with Hamas flags. So I thought Hamas was defeated, and they are now waving flags because terrorists are released. So
which means they are in Samaria.
Right.
Because Ramallah is in Samaria.
Right, there's Judea and Samaria. Now, you might ask, well, what exactly has Israel gained? Well, hostages, yes, very important for them to be returned, but at what cost is the return of the hostages happening, and what dangers are there for Israel as a result of this? And by the way, no other country, as far as I know that it happens occasionally, you know, with Russia and America, with exchanging spies and things. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about
murderers,
terrorists being released for hostages. Normally, in a hostage situation, it's a monetary situation. That's why in South America, there are a lot of insurance companies and tracking devices used with people because they could potentially become hostages and for money. It's to gain money. Now, the terrorist killers to be released include the murderer of Ari Fuld, notorious Fatah terrorist Zakaria Zubeidi, who is thought to have been involved in numerous terror attacks, including a bombing at Bet Shean that killed 6 people. Mohammed Abu Varda, who is serving 48 life sentences. I didn't know it was possible to serve that many, for masterminding multiple terror attacks, including a 1996 bombing on a bus in Jerusalem that killed 45 people. Khalida Jarrah, 62, a leading member of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP, a terror group that carried out attacks on Israelis decades ago, including plane hijacking. So we're talking about people who are killers, we're talking about murderers, and these are the type of people that are being released. The High Court of Justice rejected a petition filed by an organisation representing victims of terror against the implementation of the hostage ceasefire deal with Hamas that would include setting free Palestinian terrorists who murdered their loved ones. The court petition submitted by the Choose Life Forum demanded that Israel prevent the release of Palestinian terrorists, a key part of the agreed upon ceasefire deal. My wife's parents received a phone call this evening. Their son's murderer will be released. Likud MK Avikai Boron wrote on social media platform X, a never-ending pain. Etan Fuld was told that the terrorist who murdered his brother Ari in 2018 will be released. The release of Ari's murderers hurts, he said in a statement. My big problem, and for all of us, all of the coming victims and the next families, that to our regret will join the bereaved families due to this bad deal. In other words, if you release a terrorist, he's very likely going to commit an act of terrorism again. Also among those to be released are those who sent the terrorists who killed Devere Sorek in 2019. His father, you have told Ynet that he sees this sign deal as horrifying and an immoral surrender. So a lot of Israelis are not happy about the ceasefire agreement resulting in the release of terrorists. Sophia Palzan-Dickstein, whose parents Yaakov and Hannah and brother Shuv El were murdered in a terror attack in 2002, said the news of the release of the terrorist who carried out the attack was like a knife straight to the heart. Ynet reported. Mikai Avni wrote in the Jerusalem Post, this past weekend I woke to an unbearable reality. The Hamas terrorist who brutally murdered my father is being released as part of the hostage exchange deal. This is not justice. It is a capitulation that exposes our helplessness in the face of terror. 9 years ago, my father, Richard Blackham, of blessed memory, was brutally murdered by a Hamas terrorist on his way home aboard bus 78 in Jerusalem. Gunshots and stab wounds ended his life and traumatized our family. But my personal grief is just one thread in the national fabric of anguish. As an Israeli, I believe in the sanctity of life. Yet this is the life of people who've been murdered, by the way. Yet the price is far too high for the hostages. The price is too high for any nation to bear. History is our witness. Release terrorists, return to kill, which is common sense, that they will return to what they were previously doing. And by the way, there's a financial incentive for them to do that. They are paid for terrorism. Over the years, Israel has released, this is what he was saying, over the years, Israel has released thousands of terrorists in various deals. The statistics are clear. More than half of them, over 50%, return to terrorism, and many are responsible for the murder of thousands of additional additional people.
Yeah. And to give you how we felt when the hostages were released Sunday, is like we were feeling so happy, obviously, for the hostages who were coming back to their families. And on the other side, we were feeling terrible about what's happening with the terrorist released. And it's like, it's all over Israel. People are suffering. And we never had in our hearts so much like one side is happy and the other side is sad. It's a very weird way of you rejoice and you are in pain. It's the two things together, and it's really like most of Israel is in this position right now.
Yeah. And so this is where the country's at, but you have to put into context where we've lost so many soldiers. There are literally, the military cemetery is literally, new graveyards are abounding there because of the amount of soldiers who've been killed in this war so far. And many people are asking, why have we lost so many good people, just to find that now we have terrorists being released for the hostages, rather than having found them, saved them, and rather than having done that, we are releasing terrorists.
Yes, and they haven't been released, like a lot of people saying to me, oh, but they are released in Qatar, they are released overseas, and they are not. Maybe some will be, but a lot of them are in Judea and Samaria. So now Judea and Samaria are becoming really a war zone. So you have to think about all the settlers who are like 500,000 now of inhabitants. The roads are very dangerous and it's not safe, but they know that it's so important to settle in Samaria and Judea. So it's like a holy work that they are doing to be on the mountain of Israel. Now, interesting enough, when you read in Ezekiel 38 and 39, God is saying, I will judge the people on my mountains, and the mountain in Israel is Judea and Samaria. So this is very interesting. We can see so many prophecies now that was in the prophets that we can see in front of our eyes now. It's just amazing. We can just tick them.
The roads are dangerous because you have to drive through Arab villages to get to Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria. Once you've left Jerusalem and once you've left the Israeli side, you have to drive through all these Arab villages, and it's very dangerous. And even if it's not an Arab village, you still have the possibility that terrorists can attack you on the roads going to the Jewish communities. And many attacks have happened and are happening. There's one particular junction, if you go south from Jerusalem, and it's notorious for terror attacks happening there.
This is where there was this man, Fulz has been killed. It was in the shopping center, just in this very important traffic light. A roundabout.
Right. Yeah. So this is a really dangerous, and so it presents a huge danger for the Jewish people living in Judea and Samaria.
Because you have to understand that they can't come into the territories like Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. You need to pass a border, and you can't go with Palestinians' car. But when we go into Judea and Samaria, you have vehicles who are from Israel and also from the Palestinians people. I mean, Palestinians, the Arab people, the Muslim people. And so you can see the car is yellow and white, and
the number plates,
and the Israeli ones is yellow and black, and also the taxi are different colors, so you can see and you can know. And not only that, it's like when you are driving, when you go in Judea and Samaria, you need to be extra careful because the Arabs are not driving the same way. And so it's like an extra thing so that you need to be careful. Life, sanctity of life is not there in the way of living. There is some good people, but there is a lot of them who are very bad. And now Hamas is really standing in Judea and Samaria, and they are saying that they are going to fight. So we know, and we can sense it. It's when you live in a country here, after a while, you can sense things very quickly. People can see who you are very quickly when we pass the border. And us living here, we can judge and see what's happening very quickly, things that's not normal. I mean, like even like Monday, I was going back through one village in Israel, but there was some army people, like Israelis, and they're not there usually. And I could see the captain who was looking at my car, looking who I was, and I was like, wow, this doesn't happen usually. So we can feel this tension, we can feel because of the release of terrorists, there is a higher potential, and we are on high alert in a different way. It's not like the war, but we are at war still.
Right. Even if there's a ceasefire, there's still the possibility of terror attacks throughout the land of Israel.
And it gives a sense to all the Arabs. Okay, we can go on now. Let us carry on. So it's not easy.
But Nathalie, you have things to share with us today to uplift us, to give us a perspective as to what's happening.
Yes. So because of all of that, we are like digging into the Bible, digging in the Torah more and more, because Torah is like teaching, okay? Is teaching us knowing the ways of God and deeply know how to behave in this world, which has a lot of conflicts, and sometimes, like all around the world, there is question that we have now in this world that we never had before. Before, life was going, tradition was standing, genders different, all these things. So you have to dig more in the word to find more things. And I read a few years ago a passage in Jeremiah 15, let me find 15:1, and he's speaking about God saying, if Moses and Samuel should stand before me, and God say, even that I will carry on doing what I want to do. So I was like, Moses and Samuel, this is interesting. Moses was the redeemer for the Egyptian slavery, and Samuel was much later on. And I was like, why is God putting them together? So I've done some digging, and there is few places where you could see Moses and Aaron and Samuel. God is putting it together. So there is another passage also in Psalm 99, very interesting. And it's written, Moses and Aaron were among his priests, and Samuel among those who invoke his name. So again, he's put there with them. Now, one other thing that we can know is like Moses and Aaron was at the time of, as we said, the redemption of the slavery in Egypt. And so they needed to be strong leaders to be able to bring all the slaves out of Egypt and be redeemers, like taking them out, okay? Moses, if you think Moses was very much, he was speaking with God. God revealed himself at the burning bush. So Moses was the one who was going like from heaven, from earth to heaven. He was very much the one who was speaking with God. And Aaron, his brother, was a bit the difference. He was like man to man. He was always trying, and there is a lot of things said about him. He was helping people to reconcile, like, for example, a man and a woman, they had trouble during the marriage. And Aaron would come and try to help them and give them, like, wisdom how to behave between each other and really reconcile. He was always trying to bring peace between people. See, Moses like that and Aaron this way. And they were Levite. Now, one of the amazing things also to think about Moses and Aaron, they were two brothers. Aaron was the older one, but God chose Moses to be the redeemer. So they could have like some quarrel between them, never ever. They were standing always together, very happy to be working together. And then when God said to build the tabernacle, Moses built the tabernacle because he was the one speaking mouth to mouth with God. But God chose Aaron to be the high priest. So again, Moses had to let his older brother to be the high priest, and he was very happy and inaugurated the Mishkan, the place, the tabernacle, and they were working together, which was very interesting because it's very, very important which is interesting when you see what's happening now. There is a lot of conflicts between people, and like we have to try to see good things and common things together. And God is always working when we are working together. So in one way, right now where we are, there is so much suffering, and in one way or another, even for different events, everybody almost in Israel is suffering. I mean, I would say everybody is suffering. So we have something in common, which is very important. For God to see the suffering, he needs to see the suffering of all his people. Okay, so you can see all these things. Now, the thing which is interesting, so they were priests, and Samuel was also a priest, and Samuel was a Levi, so he comes from the same family of Moses and Aaron, okay? These priests were also prophets, so they could hear what God was saying, and they were speaking to the people. So why is God saying that Samuel was, when he speak about Samuel, he put them at the same level of Moses and Aaron? It's because Samuel learned from his story. He saw how Moses was working and was speaking with God. And he saw the side of Aaron, who was like kindness, was kind and tried to put the people together. So Samuel was called the highest prophet and really just under Moses, because he was taking both, and he was a speaker for God. And you can see, like when it was with Eli, and he was still a little boy, and he was a temple, and God speak with him, and he didn't know the word of God, and he said, "Hey, God, I can hear somebody calling me," and he was saying that it was the prophet Eli, and he's like, "No, I mean the priest, the high priest," and he said, "No," and Eli understand and said, "No, this is God who is speaking to you. You have to say, when you hear the voice again, you have to say, 'Yes, Hineni, I'm here, speak to me.'" So you can see how he was listening to the voice of God, but also he was going to teach the people, because usually people were coming to listen to the high priest and to the priest and to learn things from the Torah. But Samuel said, "No, they are not coming to me. I'm going to them. So he was traveling all in the country and bringing the teaching to the people. So it's like we need to dig in the Word of God to see also how we need to be. We need to have this connection with God, and we need to have this connection with the people, and keep working in kindness and keep connecting each other. It's very important.
And you can gain more information, gain more understanding from Nathalie's newsletter, which you do each week, and you can subscribe to that at the website, which is www.israelfirst.org. There's a lot of information on there, and you can get Nathalie does some Hebraic teaching in the newsletter, and you can receive that in your email box. Well, one of the things that's happened with the hostages who've already been returned is that they have been going through physically and psychologically a lot of issues, and Israel has been trying to sort that out, but has not yet a dedicated rehabilitation path, which is very relevant, bearing in mind there is already new hostages who've been released who are going back into the community, and how does Israel cope with that is one of the questions. Families of the hostages have reported a shortage of resources, guidance and psychological care. The hostages who returned from the Gaza Strip, which were held by Hamas for only 2 months, a period felt like eternity for the people who were with them. Younger and older children, women, men, teenagers were held under harsh physical conditions and isolated from the outside world in a constant state of eternity. And I think one of the things that has not been mentioned in any of the reports that I've read is the actual threat, life threat, the threat to life that they were facing, not just every day, but every minute, whether their lives will be ended that day, that minute. So they had this threat of being murdered all the time. They were held hostage, Nathalie, and it was something all the time. How people can cope with that is unknown, and it's one of the things that Israel is trying to grapple with at the moment. Now, a lot of news stories are coming out. We haven't got time for them today, but you can go to the website and you can go to the media page, and there's Israel News. You can also watch the previous programs and programs at your own time at the website. You can also help us financially. This is very important to financially support us, because it's only because of our friends and partners who sponsor the program, who help us and stand with us, that we're able to bring the program to you today. So please think about that. Please consider helping us financially, and you can help others to know what's going on in Israel. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, with a program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.